Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, where we try to make sense of the confusing world of corporate filings for you. And today we're diving into a filing that is all about changes and strategic shifts for a company called Integral Ad Science Holding Corp, or IAS as it is often called. What is the big story here? Well, it looks like they're making some important updates to how they've been talking about a major deal to sell the company. So, what is this filing all about? Imagine a company is planning to be bought by another company. They've already told everyone about it, but now they're adding a little more detail or clarifying some things they said before. That is essentially what Integral Ad Science Holding Corp is doing with this report. They're not announcing a brand new event, but rather updating information related to a merger agreement they entered into way back in September of 2025. It is like adding footnotes to a very important company announcement to make sure everyone has the clearest picture. Essentially, back in September of 2025, IAS agreed to be merged, or essentially bought out by a company called Igloo Group Parent Inc. and its subsidiary. This is a pretty big deal for any company, and it involves a lot of planning and communication with shareholders. They had already filed official documents about this, but now they're choosing to add some supplemental disclosures. They're saying, hey, we think we followed all the rules, but we want to be extra clear and add some more information just to be sure. This sometimes happens when companies want to make sure their shareholders have absolutely everything they need to know before a major transaction like this. And here is a bit of legalese to be aware of. They are specifically stating that adding this extra information doesn't mean they are admitting they did anything wrong before, or that this new information is necessarily legally required in a critical way. It is more of a voluntary addition to provide a fuller picture. Now, let's get into what is actually being updated. This filing goes point by point, showing what text is being added or removed from their previous official statements. They're making some tweaks to the section discussing the background of the merger. First up, they're updating details about when financial forecasts were shared with the board. Back in January of 2025, a preliminary version of their 2025 operating plan, including 3-year projections and revenue forecasts, was shared with the board for review. This is pretty standard stuff at this stage of a big deal. Then, on the 4th of February, after discussing these initial forecasts, the board asked the management team to make some small changes before they showed these numbers to potential buyers. It's interesting to see the board being actively involved in refining the financial outlook, and in the following days, the management team did just that. They updated the forecast based on the board's feedback, and by the 8th of February, the board approved these revised numbers, now called the February 2025 forecasts, to be shared. This part is important. The board gave the green light to share these February 2025 forecasts with potential buyers, but only those who had signed agreements to keep things confidential. This suggests a formal process was underway to explore offers and find the best deal for IA shareholders. Fast forward to September 2025. Certain board members met with their legal team, Jefferies, and management to go over the first draft of the merger agreement that they planned to share with a specific potential buyer called Novacap. This is where the detailed terms of the deal start to get ironed out. They're highlighting some key aspects of this draft agreement. It included standard promises and agreements, typical for this kind of deal where a financial buyer is involved. Importantly, it included provisions for IAS to terminate the deal if they received an even better offer, though this would likely come with a penalty fee. Also mentioned are hell or high water obligations, which basically means they would do absolutely everything possible, no matter how difficult, to get the required regulatory approvals. This signals a strong commitment to closing the deal. This part talks about how the deal would be approved by shareholders. It mentions consenting stockholders who, combined, held enough voting power to approve a change in control of the company. They were expected to give their written consent to the deal after it was signed, which helps streamline the approval process. Now, they're also updating the section dedicated to the company's financial forecast, which is usually a crucial part of any merger discussion. This gives us a timeline of how financial projections were developed. Back in September and October of 2024, management created and the board approved forecasts covering 2024 through 2027. These were shared with their financial advisors, Jefferies, as they evaluated their options and the potential merger. Then, as they moved into 2025, and likely due to shifts in the market and the company's performance, management created updated forecasts for 2025 through 2027. These were approved by the board on the 4th of February 2025. These February 2025 forecasts were crucial for the board's continued evaluation and for Jefferies' analysis. The most recent update mentioned here comes from August 2025. Management presented new forecasts covering a longer horizon 2025 through 2029, which the board approved on the 14th of August. These are called the August 2025 forecasts. All these different sets of forecasts for 2024, February 2025, and August 2025 are collectively referred to as the forecasts. These later forecasts were key for evaluating the proposed merger and for Jefferies to form their financial opinions. It shows a continuous process of refining future expectations based on new information and changing circumstances. Now, let's talk about what this whole document is trying to achieve. It contains a lot of forward-looking statements. This is just legalese for statements about what the company expects to happen in the future. These can include things like anticipated benefits from the acquisition, future operating performance when the deal might close, and other future plans or expectations. It is important to remember that these are just predictions, not guarantees. And this is where we get to the very important part. They list out all the potential risks and uncertainties that could affect whether this merger actually happens or what the consequences might be if it does. These are the things that could cause the actual results to be very different from what they are predicting. Think about it, things like the deal not closing on time or at all, or not getting necessary government approvals, or even just the uncertainty of the deal affecting business relationships and operations. They also mention things like maintaining good relationships with employees and customers, and the general impacts of economic conditions like inflation. They point to their other filings for even more details on these risks. It is a long list, showing there are many potential hurdles. This section is essentially an invitation for shareholders to get more information. They are being told that this report and other documents filed with the US Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, contain important details about the proposed merger. They are strongly urging their stockholders to read the information statement and any other related documents very carefully because they will contain crucial information about this entire transaction. This is standard practice to ensure shareholders are well informed, and they also provide ways for shareholders to get free copies of these documents. And finally, we have the signatures. This confirms that the company Integral Ad Science Holding Corp has officially submitted this report. It is signed by Alpana Wegner, who is the Chief Financial Officer and Principal Financial Officer. This signature attests that the information presented in this filing is accurate to the best of her knowledge. So, what is the story here? Integral Ad Science Holding Corp is providing updates to its disclosures regarding a pending merger. They're clarifying timelines related to financial forecasts and the negotiation of merger terms, showing a careful step-by-step process of reviewing and approving financial projections and deal documents. They also reiterate the many risks involved in such a transaction. Looking at this from a Warren Buffett perspective. While there are no direct financial tables here to dissect this time, the core of the story is about the process and transparency surrounding a major strategic event, the sale of the company. The multiple revisions of financial forecasts are interesting. It shows that management is actively refining their outlook and that the board is engaged in the process. The hell or high water obligation regarding regulatory approvals is a strong signal of intent from the buyer, but it also highlights potential roadblocks. The extensive list of risks is also a key takeaway. It's essential for investors and stakeholders to understand that even with a signed agreement, many things can go wrong. For Integral Ad Science Holding Corp right now, the primary strength is their commitment to providing detailed and updated information to their shareholders, even if it means amending previous statements. This promotes transparency, which is always a positive sign. The main weakness, or perhaps more accurately, a challenge, is the inherent uncertainty of any merger. The business operations during this transition period could be impacted by the pending sale and the associated restrictions they mentioned. The opportunity here is a successful sale at a favorable price, which would likely benefit shareholders. The significant risks, however, cannot be understated and could derail the entire process. In conclusion, this filing is less about immediate financial performance and more about the intricate process and communication surrounding a major corporate event. It emphasizes the importance of diligence, foresight, and clear communication when navigating complex transactions. Alright, that is our breakdown of Integral Ad Science Holding Corp's latest filing. What is your take on these updates and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments if this analysis was valuable. Hitting that like button really helps. And subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.